The massive space station floated in the darkness between three star systems. Kepler Station was neutral ground, built by 12 different alien races working together. Its crystal walls sparkled with lights from 1,000 different ships. Today, it hosted the most important meeting in the galaxy. Ambassador Lehana walked through the long corridors of the station. Her simple black suit looked plain next to the colorful robes and armor of the other delegates. She carried only a small briefcase in her hand. No guards walked with her. No military officers flanked her sides. The main conference hall was enormous. Seats arranged in a perfect circle could hold representatives from over 200 worlds. Above them, a dome showed the stars outside. The room buzzed with conversation in dozens of languages. Lehana found Earth's assigned seat. A small nameplate read, Sol System Earth, in simple letters. She sat down and placed her briefcase on the table. Around her, other delegates were setting up complex equipment. Some had holographic displays. Others had armed bodyguards standing behind their chairs. To her left sat the Vorthon Empire delegation. General Crixtal was a massive creature covered in thick gray skin. Scars crossed his face from old battles. Behind him stood 6 soldiers in heavy armor, their weapons clearly visible. The general's eyes glowed red as he looked around the room, studying everyone like they were enemies. To her right were the representatives from the Keth Republic. Admiral Thys was tall and thin, with blue skin that seemed to shimmer. Her uniform was covered in medals and ribbons. She had brought 12 military advisors, each one carrying data tablets and communication devices. They whispered constantly, in her ear, giving her updates from their fleets. Other delegations filled the remaining seats. The Zephyrians brought their slave-collared servants. The Mandorian clans had warriors with energy swords. The crystal beings of Andromeda floated in special atmosphere suits. Every single group had brought their military leaders, their weapons experts, their war strategists. Every group except Earth. Director Park Jiho appeared on the screen above Lehana's seat. His image was clear, broadcasting from Earth itself. He wore a simple gray suit and had a kind face. No military uniform, no weapons, no medals or ribbons showing his victories in battle. "Ambassador Lee," he said through the communication link, "are you ready for the negotiations?" "Yes, Director Park," she replied. "All preparations are complete." The other delegates began to notice the strange situation. Whispers started spreading through the room. The human delegation had no soldiers, no weapons, no military advisors. Just one woman with a briefcase and a man on a screen. General Crixtal leaned toward his aide, a younger Vorthon officer. "Where are their warriors?" he asked in a voice like grinding stone. "Where are their weapons?" The aide checked his data tablet. "Our intelligence reports show no human military presence on the station, General. Their delegation consists of only civilian diplomats." Admiral Thys heard this conversation. She turned to look at Lehana with curiosity. "Interesting," she murmured to her advisors. "Either they are very confident or very foolish." The conference moderator, a tall being from the Neutral Centauri Federation, called for attention. His voice echoed through the hall. "Representatives of the galaxy, we gather today to address the growing conflict between the Vorthon Empire and the Keth Republic. Border disputes in the Outer Rim have escalated. Both sides have moved military fleets into contested space. We must find a peaceful solution before this leads to galactic war." General Crixtal stood up. His massive form cast a shadow over nearby seats. "The Vorthon Empire has rightful claim to the Sigma Draconis system," Our ancestors discovered those worlds 3,000 years ago. We will not surrender what is ours. He activated a holographic display above his seat. Images of massive warships appeared in the air. Hundreds of vessels, each one the size of a small moon. The hologram showed their weapons: planet-killing cannons, antimatter torpedoes, gravity bombs that could crush entire fleets. Our third battle fleet contains 800 ships, General Krixtal announced. Each vessel carries enough firepower to destroy a star system. We have 40 million soldiers ready for deployment. Our war factories can build 10,000 new fighters every day. The display changed to show ground forces. Millions of Vorthan warriors in powered armor, tank divisions that stretched beyond the horizon, orbital bombardment platforms that could turn worlds into glass. Admiral Thys rose gracefully from her seat. Her blue skin seemed to glow brighter. The Keth Republic recognizes no such ancient claims. Those systems are now inhabited by peaceful traders and colonists. We will not allow the Vorthan Empire to enslave free beings. Her own holographic display activated. Keth ships were smaller than Vorthan vessels, but there were thousands of them. They moved in perfect formation, like schools of deadly fish. Each ship bristled with weapons designed for quick strikes and fast escapes. Our 7th Fleet has achieved victory in every engagement for the past 50 years, Admiral Thys declared. We have 3,000 ships in the contested region. Our soldiers are trained from birth for war. Our technology is superior to anything the Vorthans possess. The two displays faced each other in the center of the room, virtual fleets prepared for virtual battle. The tension in the hall grew thick. Other delegates shifted nervously in their seats. Everyone knew that the slightest wrong word could start a real war. Lihanna watched all of this calmly. She had not moved from her seat. Her briefcase remained closed. Her expression showed no emotion. A junior Keth officer named Commander Velthar stepped forward. He was young and eager to prove himself. His voice carried across the silent hall. At least the Vorthans have the courage to bring their military leaders to this conference. Some species, he looked directly at Lihanna, seem too cowardly to even show their warriors. The hall fell completely silent. Every eye turned toward the human ambassador. General Krixtal smiled, showing sharp teeth. Admiral Thys raised an eyebrow with interest. The other delegates waited to see how Earth would respond to such an insult. Lihanna slowly stood up. She was much smaller than the aliens around her, but something in her calm movement made the room feel different. She placed one hand on her briefcase and looked directly at Commander Velthar. "Commander," she said in a quiet voice that somehow carried to every corner of the hall. "You raise a very interesting point about military representation at peace conferences." She opened her briefcase for the first time. Inside was a simple data tablet, no bigger than her hand. She lifted it out and placed it on the table. Perhaps it would be educational for everyone here to understand exactly why Earth's military does not attend these meetings. The silence in the room deepened. Even the background hum of the station's systems seemed to quiet down. Lihanna's finger moved toward the activation button on her tablet. "I think you would find the explanation quite enlightening." Lihanna pressed the button on her tablet. A holographic display appeared above her seat, much simpler than the war machines shown by the other delegates. It showed a peaceful star system with a bright yellow sun and several planets. Ships moved slowly between the worlds, carrying cargo and passengers. 3 months ago," she began, her voice still calm and quiet, "this was the Kepler 442 system. A human colony had been established there for 15 years. 30,000 people lived on the main planet. They were farmers, teachers, engineers, families building a new life. The display zoomed in to show the colony world. Green fields stretched across continents. Cities sparkled with lights. Children played in parks while their parents worked in peaceful jobs. It looked like paradise. The colonists sent regular reports back to Earth, Lihana continued. They were happy. The harvests were good. New babies were being born. They were planning to expand to the second planet in the system. Commander Velthar shifted impatiently. What does this have to do with military strength? He asked. Lihana's expression did not change. Patience, Commander. Understanding requires context. The holographic display changed. Dark shapes appeared at the edge of the star system. Ships with twisted metal hulls and weapons pointed in every direction. They moved like predators hunting prey. The Ravak horde had been terrorizing this part of space for 2 centuries, Lihana explained. Pirates, slavers, killers. They attacked any ship or world that seemed weak. The galactic community had tried to stop them many times. All efforts failed. General Krikstal nodded grimly. The Ravak are animals. Even the Vorthan Empire could not destroy them completely. They hide in asteroid fields and attack without warning. That is correct, Lihana agreed. Their leader, Chieftain Gorthak, commanded over 3,000 ships. They had bases in 47 different star systems. When they attacked, they showed no mercy to anyone. The display showed the Ravak fleet approaching the human colony. The ships were massive and ugly, covered in spikes and weapons. They looked like they had been built from scrap metal and hate. The attack came without warning, Lihana said. The colonists had no military ships to defend themselves. Their few security officers had only small weapons meant for keeping peace, not fighting wars. The hologram showed the brutal attack. Ravak ships destroyed the colony's communication arrays first. Then they began bombing cities and farms. People ran in terror as their homes burned. Parents grabbed their children and fled to emergency shelters. The colony ship New Soul tried to evacuate as many people as possible. Lihana continued. Captain Kim Dong-yun managed to save 8,000 colonists before the Ravak destroyed his ship. The escape pods scattered across space, sending distress signals. Admiral Thiss leaned forward. A tragic story, but these things happen in space. The strong survive, the weak perish. This is the way of the universe. Perhaps, Lihana replied. But that distress signal reached Earth. The display changed to show Earth's solar system. The blue planet looked peaceful, surrounded by space stations and shipping lanes. But something began to happen as the distress signal arrived. The response was immediate, Lihana said. Admiral Choi Minho ordered the activation of Defense Protocol 7. Captain Kim Dong-hyun's final transmission was broadcast across all human worlds. Ships began moving throughout the solar system. Not huge warships like the Vorthans used, not thousands of fighters like the Keth Republic. Instead, smaller vessels left their docks and joined together in groups. They looked like merchant ships, passenger liners, cargo haulers. Normal civilian vessels. These ships do not look like military forces, observed one of the crystal beings, its voice chiming like bells. No, they do not, Lihana agreed. And that was the Ravak's first mistake. The display followed the human ships as they left the solar system. They moved quickly, but did not seem to follow normal military formation. Instead, they scattered in different directions, as if each ship had its own mission. The Ravak horde had 47 bases spread across 12 star systems, Lee Hanna continued. These bases had protected them for 2 centuries, hidden in asteroid fields, on dead worlds, inside gas giant clouds, places where large fleets could not reach them easily. The hologram zoomed out to show the entire region of space. Red dots marked each Ravak base. They formed a complex network that stretched across many light years. It would take a massive fleet months to attack them all. Military experts had studied this problem for decades, Lee Hanna said. How do you destroy an enemy that can hide anywhere and strike from everywhere? The answer seemed impossible. General Kriegstall rumbled with interest. We tried to solve this problem ourselves. The logistics are too complex. By the time you attack one base, they have moved all their ships to another location. Exactly, Lee Hanna nodded. Unless you can attack all the bases at the same time. The display changed to show a timeline. It started 72 hours after the distress signal reached Earth. Suddenly, every single red dot representing a Ravak base began flashing. 72 hours, Lee Hanna repeated. From the moment Captain Kim received the distress signal to the moment the last Ravak base was destroyed. 72 hours to end a problem that had lasted 2 centuries. The room was completely silent now. Even Commander Velthar had stopped moving. The implications of what they were seeing began to sink in. Admiral Thiss spoke first. Impossible. The coordination required. No military force could move that quickly across such distances. You are correct, Lee Hanna said. No military force could accomplish this. The display zoomed in on one of the attacks. A Ravak base built inside a large asteroid was being systematically destroyed. But the attacking ships were clearly civilian vessels. Cargo ships fired missiles from hidden weapons bays. Passenger liners deployed armed shuttles. Even small private yachts carried more firepower than most military fighters. The Ravak never saw them coming, Lee Hanna explained. They were watching for military fleets, battle groups, invasion forces. They did not notice civilian ships arriving to trade, deliver supplies, or request passage. The hologram showed Ravak pirates being captured by people who looked like ordinary traders and travelers. But these humans moved with military precision. They knew exactly where every weapon was stored, where every leader would be hiding, how to disable every defense system. The final attack was on the Ravak's main fortress, Lee Hanna said, a massive asteroid base that had never been conquered. Chieftain Gorthak himself commanded the defenses from there. The display showed the fortress. It was enormous, bristling with weapons and shields. Thousands of Ravak ships surrounded it like an angry swarm. It looked completely impregnable. The attack lasted 6 hours, Lee Hanna stated simply. The hologram showed human civilian ships approaching the fortress. They looked tiny compared to the massive defenses. But then something remarkable happened. The ships began to work together with perfect coordination. Cargo vessels provided cover, while passenger liners deployed troops. Private yachts guided precision strikes while merchant ships jammed communications. The Ravak defenses crumbled like sand. Their ships were destroyed or captured. Their weapons were turned against their own bases. Within 6 hours, the fortress that had stood for 2 centuries was nothing but floating debris. No survivors, Lee Hanna added quietly. No prisoners. No negotiation. The display faded, leaving the conference hall in stunned silence. Commander Velthar's face had gone pale. General Kriegstall stared at the space where the hologram had been. Admiral Thiss gripped the arms of her chair. How? Was all Admiral Thiss could manage to say. Lee Hanna closed her tablet and placed it back in her briefcase. That, Admiral, is why our military does not attend peace conferences. They are always busy with more pressing matters. The silence stretched on. Everyone in the room was trying to understand what they had just witnessed. The complete destruction of the galaxy's most feared pirate fleet by ships that looked like they carried tourists and cargo. Finally, General Krixtal found his voice. "Your civilian ships. They fought like soldiers." Lihana smiled for the first time since the presentation began. "Did they, General? Or perhaps you simply do not understand what human civilians really are." The delegates in the conference hall shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Whispered conversations broke out as representatives tried to make sense of what they had just seen. The complete destruction of the Ravak horde by civilian ships seemed impossible. Yet the evidence was clear. Lihana waited patiently for the room to quiet down. Her calm expression never changed, as if discussing the elimination of galactic pirates was as normal as talking about the weather. Commander Velthar, who had started this conversation with his insult, now looked confused and worried. "Ambassador, surely this was a special case. The Ravak were just pirates, not a real military force." "An interesting point, Commander," Lihana replied. She opened her briefcase again and took out her tablet. Perhaps another example would be more instructive. The holographic display activated once more. This time it showed a complex web of lines connecting hundreds of star systems. Each line pulsed with different colors, and at various points along the network, large structures appeared to be processing something. 6 months before the Ravak incident, Lihana began, human intelligence discovered something disturbing. Our colonies were being watched. Ships were following our trade routes. People were disappearing from remote outposts. The web of lines began to make more sense as Lihana continued. It was a transportation network, but not for cargo or passengers. The structures were processing centers, and the cargo being moved was living beings. The Zephyrian slavers had been operating for over 300 years, she explained. They were not random pirates like the Ravak. They were organized, careful, and very good at hiding their activities. Admiral Thys leaned forward with interest. "The Zephyrian slave trade. The Galactic Council has been trying to negotiate an end to their operations for decades." 40 years, to be exact, Lihana confirmed. 40 years of meetings, treaties, agreements, and promises. Meanwhile, the Zephyrians continued taking people from dozens of worlds. The display zoomed in to show one of the processing centers. It was a massive space station, hidden in an empty region between star systems. Thousands of beings from different species were held in cramped cells. The conditions were horrible. General Krixtal rumbled with disgust. "Even the Vorthan Empire finds slavery distasteful. We conquer our enemies honorably. We do not steal people in the night." "The Zephyrians were very careful," Lihana continued. "They only took small numbers from each world, never enough to cause major attention. They avoided strong military targets. They specialized in hitting isolated colonies and trade ships. The hologram showed how the slave network operated. Ships would approach under false trade flags. They would disable their targets quickly and quietly. The victims would disappear into the network, transported to processing centers, then sold at hidden auctions throughout the galaxy. Overlord Vexitar controlled the entire operation, Lihana said. He was brilliant, ruthless, and very patient. His network included 78 processing centers, 36 auction houses, and over 2,000 ships. A new figure appeared in the hologram. Overlord Vexitar was tall and thin, with pale skin and cold eyes. He wore expensive robes covered in jewels taken from his victims. Around him stood guards carrying advanced weapons. Intelligence estimates suggested that over 2 million beings were trapped in the Zephyrian network at any given time, Lihana stated. Families torn apart, children sold to the highest bidder, entire communities destroyed. The crystal being. Delegate chimed sadly. Our people have lost many to the Zephyrians, but their network was too large, too well hidden. Military strikes would only drive them deeper underground. That was the conventional wisdom, Lihana agreed. Attack one part of the network and the rest would scatter and hide. It seemed like an impossible problem to solve. Commander Velthar, despite his earlier fear, could not help asking, "So what did humans do?" Lihana's expression became slightly darker. "We solved it." The display changed to show a timeline. Unlike the Ravak incident, this one stretched over several weeks. But the scale was enormous. Every single facility in the Zephyrian network was marked with targeting information. Colonel Yoon Subin commanded the operation, Lihana explained. She had served in our military for 20 years before retiring to become a freight company owner. Major Bae Tae-hyung led the tactical teams. He had left the Marines to work as a passenger liner captain. The hologram showed two people who looked like ordinary business owners. Colonel Yoon was a middle-aged woman in a simple jumpsuit, the kind worn by cargo ship crews. Major Bae appeared to be giving tours to passengers on what looked like a luxury cruise ship. "They do not look like military commanders," observed Admiral Thiss. "Because they were not," Lihana replied. Officially, they were civilian ship captains. Unofficially, they coordinated the largest rescue operation in galactic history. The display showed the operation beginning. Unlike the quick strikes against the Ravak, this was a slow, careful process. Human ships began appearing throughout Zephyrian space. Cargo vessels, passenger liners, private yachts, research ships, even small family transports. The Zephyrians did not notice anything unusual at first, Lihana continued. These were normal civilian ships doing normal civilian activities. Trading, exploring, carrying passengers, nothing that seemed threatening. But as the hologram continued, the pattern became clear. The civilian ships were positioning themselves near every single Zephyrian facility, not close enough to cause suspicion, but close enough to act when the time came. The coordination was remarkable, admitted General Krickstall. But surely the Zephyrians would notice so many human ships in their territory. They did notice, Lihana said. After 2 weeks, Overlord Vextar became suspicious. He ordered his forces to investigate the human ships. The hologram showed Zephyrian vessels approaching a human cargo ship. They demanded to search the vessel for weapons or military equipment. The human captain, a woman named Captain Lim Ji-won, agreed immediately. The search found exactly what you would expect, Lihana said. Cargo containers full of trade goods, passenger quarters occupied by tourists, engine rooms run by civilian engineers, no weapons, no soldiers, no military equipment. Admiral Thiss frowned. Then how did they plan to attack? They did not need weapons, Lihana replied simply. They were the weapons. The display zoomed in on the cargo ship during the search. The Zephyrian soldiers looked through every container, every room, every system. They found mining equipment, construction tools, food processors, medical supplies, entertainment systems, all perfectly normal civilian items. What the Zephyrians did not realize, Lihana continued, was that mining equipment can cut through ship hulls, construction tools can build explosives, food processors can make chemical weapons, medical supplies can create sleeping gas. The hologram showed the same cargo ship after the Zephyrians left. The civilian crew began assembling their mining equipment in new ways. The construction tools were connected to the ship's power systems. The food processors started producing something that definitely was not food. Engineer Park Young-ho designed portable weapons systems that could be built from common civilian equipment, Lee Hana explained. His day job was maintaining life support systems on passenger ships. His real expertise was creating military hardware from household items. More ships appeared in the display. Passenger liners where the tourists were carrying concealed weapons in their luggage, research vessels where the scientists were studying the best ways to disable Zephyrian defenses, even family transports where the children were trained in combat techniques. "This is impossible," Commander Velthar protested. "Civilians cannot fight like soldiers. They do not have the training, the discipline, the courage." Lee Hana looked at him with what might have been pity. "Commander, I think you fundamentally misunderstand what human civilians are." The display showed the final phase of the operation. Simultaneously, across 78 star systems, the human civilian ships revealed their true nature. Cargo vessels deployed Marines from their cargo holds. Passenger liners launched fighters from their shuttle bays. Private yachts coordinated. Precision strikes with weapons that had been assembled from spare parts. The entire Zephyrian network was destroyed in 6 hours, Lee Hana stated. Every processing center liberated, every auction house raided, every ship captured or destroyed. Over 2 million beings freed and returned to their home worlds. The hologram showed the aftermath. Former slaves walking free, reunited with families they thought they would never see again. Zephyrian facilities burning or captured. The network that had operated for 3 centuries was completely gone. Overlord Vexitar was found in his private fortress, Lee Hana added. He was tried by the freed slaves themselves. I understand their justice was quite thorough. The display faded, leaving the conference hall in stunned silence once again. The delegates stared at the empty space where the hologram had been, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Finally, Admiral Thiss asked the question everyone was thinking. "How many of your civilian ships can do this?" Lee Hana smiled. But it was not a warm expression. "All of them, Admiral, every single one." The silence in the conference hall stretched longer this time. Admiral Thiss stared at Lee Hana with a mixture of respect and growing fear. General Kriegstahl had gone very still, his red eyes focused on the human ambassador as if seeing her for the first time. Lee Hana seemed completely unaware of the tension her words had created. She closed her tablet and placed it back in her briefcase with the same calm movements she had used throughout the presentation. "I can see that some of you are concerned," she said, her tone remaining perfectly diplomatic. "Perhaps I should clarify something that your intelligence services seem to have missed." Commander Velthar, who had started this entire discussion, now spoke in a much quieter voice. "What kind of clarification?" "About human nature," Lee Hana replied. She opened her briefcase one more time and activated her tablet. The holographic display showed Earth, looking peaceful and blue from space. "You see our civilian population as separate from our military capacity," she began. "This is a fundamental error in understanding. Let me show you what I mean." The display zoomed in on Earth's surface. Cities sprawled across continents, connected by transport networks and communication lines. Billions of people went about their daily lives, working in offices, factories, farms, and schools. Earth's current population is 12 billion people, Lee Hana stated. Of these, only 50 million serve in what you would recognize as traditional military forces. Admiral Thiss made a quick calculation. That means your military represents less than 1% of your population. How can such a small force maintain security across so many worlds? Because you are still thinking in old terms, Li Hana explained. You see soldiers and civilians as different categories of people. This distinction does not exist in human society. The holographic display changed to show a human child attending school. The classroom looked normal. Desks, books, learning materials. But as the presentation continued, it became clear that this was not an ordinary school. Education on Earth includes what we call practical life skills, Li Hana continued. Children learn mathematics by calculating ballistic trajectories. They study chemistry by understanding explosive compounds. They practice teamwork through tactical exercises. The display showed the same children, now teenagers, participating in what looked like sports activities. But these sports involved precision shooting, hand-to-hand combat, survival training, and strategic planning. By the time humans reach adulthood, Li Hana explained, they have received more military training than most species give their professional soldiers. General Kriegstall shifted uncomfortably. You train your entire population for war? We train our entire population to survive, Li Hana corrected. In space, survival and military capability are often the same thing. The display showed adult humans in various civilian jobs. A teacher who could field strip a weapon while explaining mathematics. A doctor who knew exactly where to place medical equipment to create the maximum battlefield advantage. A farmer who understood how to turn agricultural chemicals into military explosives. Every human engineer can build weapons from civilian equipment, Li Hana continued. Every human pilot can fly combat missions. Every human trader understands logistics well enough to coordinate military operations. Dr. Quan Minji appeared in the hologram. She was a middle-aged woman in a laboratory coat, studying alien plant samples. She looked like any other civilian scientist. Dr. Quan specializes in xenobiology, Li Hana explained. Her official job is cataloging alien plant and animal life on human colonies. Her unofficial expertise is understanding the weaknesses of alien species in combat situations. The display showed Dr. Quan's research files, detailed studies of Zephyrian physiology, including exactly which pressure points would disable them most quickly. Analysis of Vorthan anatomy, with notes about their vulnerable nerve clusters. Complete biological profiles of dozens of species, all focused on tactical applications. She has never served in our military, Li Hana added. But her research provided crucial intelligence for both the Ravak and Zephyrian operations. Admiral Thiss was beginning to understand the implications. Your civilians are not just trained for combat. They are actively gathering intelligence and preparing for military operations. Preparing, yes, Li Hana agreed, but not for offensive operations. Humans do not start wars, Admiral. We finish them. The holographic display showed the true scope of human space, not just the colonies and trade routes that other species knew about, but the complete network of human presence in the galaxy. We have people on over 2,000 worlds, Li Hana stated. Traders, colonists, researchers, tourists, diplomats. To outside observers, they appear to be normal civilians pursuing normal civilian activities. The display zoomed in on different human settlements. Each one looked peaceful and harmless. Farming communities growing food, research stations studying local phenomena, trading posts facilitating commerce between species. What you do not see, Li Hana continued, is the coordination between these settlements. Every human outpost is connected to every other human outpost. Information flows constantly between them. Resources can be shared instantly across vast distances. A complex network of communication lines appeared on the display, connecting every human settlement. It looked like a vast nervous system stretching across the galaxy. When the Ravak attacked our colony, Lihanna explained, every human within 50 light-years knew about it within minutes. When we discovered the Zephyrian slave network, every human trader in the galaxy began watching for suspicious activity. Commander Velthar, despite his fear, had to ask, "How many humans are actually in space?" Lihanna paused before answering. "The exact number is classified, but I can tell you that it grows every day." General Krixtal suddenly straightened in his seat. His aide had been frantically checking data on his tablet and had just whispered something in the general's ear. The massive alien's face went pale. "My intelligence officer has just informed me," General Krixtal said slowly, "that our latest estimates show 50 million humans scattered across 2,000 star systems." He stared directly at Lihanna. "We believed this represented your total space-based population." Lihanna's diplomatic mask slipped for just a moment, showing a hint of amusement. "Oh my, your intelligence is quite incomplete." The number appeared in the holographic display. 50,000. But then other numbers began appearing below it. Numbers that made the delegates' eyes widen in shock. Earth's current population, 12 billion, Lihanna stated. Human space-based population, 8 billion. Total humans in the galaxy, 20 billion. The silence was deafening. Admiral Theiss gripped her chair so tightly that her blue skin turned white. Commander Velthar stared at the numbers, as if they might change if he looked hard enough. 8 billion humans in space, repeated one of the crystal beings, their voice chiming with disbelief. That is larger than the total population of most star empires. And growing, Lihanna added casually. We launch new colony ships every month. Families emigrate to new worlds constantly. Our birth rate in space colonies is quite healthy. The display showed streams of ships leaving Earth and other human worlds. Not military vessels, but civilian transports carrying families, equipment, and supplies to establish new settlements. "How?" was all Admiral Theiss could manage to say. "Humans reproduce quickly and adapt easily," Lihanna explained. "We also have a strong drive to explore and settle new territories. It is simply our nature." General Krixtal found his voice. 8 billion humans, all trained for combat, all connected by this communication network, all capable of coordinating military operations at a moment's notice. "That is correct," Lihanna confirmed. "Scattered across the galaxy in positions where they can observe and influence every major trade route, every strategic system, every important world." Also correct. The general's next words came out in a whisper. "You have not just been exploring space. You have been quietly conquering it." Lihanna's expression became serious. "General, I must correct that statement. Humans do not conquer. We settle, we trade, we explore. We defend ourselves when necessary. But we do not start wars. Then what do you call what you did to the Ravak, to the Zephyrians?" "Pest control," Lihanna replied simply. The phrase hung in the air like a physical thing. Every delegate in the room understood the implication. To humans, the most feared pirates and slavers in the galaxy were not enemies to be negotiated with or threats to be contained. They were simply pests to be eliminated. Commander Velthar's voice was barely audible. What happens if someone threatens humanity directly? Li Hana looked at him with what might have been sympathy. Commander, I hope we never have to find out. The tension in the conference hall had reached a breaking point. Every delegate sat frozen in their seats, trying to process the reality of what they had just learned. 8 billion humans scattered across the galaxy, all trained for combat, all connected in a vast network that no one had detected. General Krixtall slowly stood up, his massive frame casting shadows across the nearby seats. When he spoke, his voice was carefully controlled, like someone trying not to wake a sleeping. Predator, Ambassador Lee, he said, my aide has just finished checking our most recent intelligence reports. According to our best estimates, there are over 50 million humans in space across 2,000 star systems. He paused, staring directly at the human ambassador. Our military experts believed this number represented your total population, outside of Earth. Li Hana's diplomatic mask finally slipped completely, revealing a hint of genuine amusement. Oh my, your intelligence services are quite inadequate. A new holographic display appeared above her seat, showing numbers that made several delegates gasp audibly. The true scope of human expansion was staggering. Not thousands of settlements, but hundreds of thousands. Not millions of ships, but tens of millions. Earth's current population, 12 billion, Li Hana stated calmly. Human space colonies, 8 billion. Total humans in the galaxy, 20 billion and growing every day. Admiral Theiss had gone completely pale, her blue skin now looking almost white. 20 billion, she whispered. That is larger than the combined populations of the Keth Republic, the Vorthan Empire, and half the other star nations in this room. And unlike your populations, Li Hana continued, ours is entirely mobile. Every human in space can relocate to anywhere else in the galaxy within months. Every settlement can be abandoned or reinforced as needed. Every ship can become a military vessel in hours. Director Park Ji-ho's image on the screen above Li Hana's seat flickered and changed. The background behind him shifted from what looked like a simple office to something much more complex. Multiple screens showed star charts, fleet positions, and communication networks spanning the galaxy. Director Park, Li Hana said, would you care to explain our current operational status? Certainly, Ambassador, he replied. At this moment, we have active operations in 47 star systems, humanitarian aid missions, exploration surveys, trade negotiations, and security patrols, all conducted by civilian volunteers. The holographic display showed a real-time map of human activities across the galaxy. Ships moved along trade routes, settlements expanded on frontier worlds. Research teams studied alien phenomena. It looked like a thriving civilian civilization. Of course, Director Park added, all of these activities are coordinated through our Colonial Administration network. Every ship captain, every settlement leader, every research team maintains constant communication with our central command. Admiral, Theiss understood immediately. Your entire civilian population is actually a military force in disguise. Not in disguise, Li Hana corrected. They are genuinely civilians pursuing legitimate civilian activities. The fact that they can also function as military units when necessary is simply practical redundancy. A new figure appeared on Director Park's screen. Admiral Jang Hyunju was clearly on the bridge of a starship, wearing a simple blue uniform. Behind her, crew members worked at various stations, but the sounds of battle could be heard in the background. Admiral Jang, Li Hana said calmly, please report on the current situation. Ambassador Lee, Admiral Zhang replied. The Corvash incursion has been neutralized. 37 hostile vessels destroyed. No human casualties. We are currently assisting Deltan refugees whose worlds were attacked. The casual nature of this report sent chills through the conference hall. The Corvash were known as aggressive raiders who had been terrorizing the Outer Rim for months. Military planners had estimated it would take a major fleet action to stop them. Casualties among the Corvash? Li Hana asked. Total, Admiral Zhang replied simply. They chose to fight rather than surrender. We are processing their shipwreckage for useful materials. Thank you, Admiral. Please coordinate with the Colonial Administration for refugee resettlement efforts. Already. In progress, Admiral Zhang confirmed. 3 colony ships are en route to establish temporary settlements. Medical teams are treating the wounded. Engineer Corps is surveying suitable worlds for permanent relocation. The transmission ended, leaving the conference hall in absolute silence. Admiral Theiss was the first to find her voice. You just casually eliminated an entire raider fleet while sitting in a peace conference? The Admiral was already in the region, Li Hana explained. When the Deltan distress signal arrived, it was simply efficient to respond immediately. Commander Velthar, who had started this entire conversation with his insult about human cowardice, now spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. How do we negotiate with a species that is always at war? Li Hana looked at him with what might have been sympathy. You do not negotiate with us, Commander. You negotiate despite us. She stood up and closed her briefcase, preparing to leave. We keep the galaxy safe so that the rest of you can sit in rooms like this and debate territorial disputes. We eliminate pirates so your trade routes remain open. We stop slavers so your people can live in peace. We respond to threats so you do not have to. The holographic display showed the current state of the galaxy. Peaceful trade routes protected by invisible human presence. Colonies thriving under the umbrella of human security. Former pirate strongholds now serving as refugee centers managed by human volunteers. Consider this conference a luxury we provide free of charge, Li Hana continued. While you argue about who owns which star system, humans are out there making. Sure, those star systems continue to exist. General Krickstall finally found the courage to ask the question that terrified him most. What happens if someone declares war on humanity? Li Hana paused at the entrance to the conference hall. When she turned back, her expression was completely serious. General, in the past 3 months, humans have eliminated the Ravak horde, destroyed the Zephyrian slave network, and neutralized the Corvash raiders. We did this while you were all sitting in meetings, debating policy, and forming committees. She gestured toward the holographic display, still showing human activities across the galaxy. 8 billion humans in space, all trained from childhood. For survival in hostile environments, all connected by instant communication networks, all capable of coordinating military operations without formal command structures. The display zoomed in on various human settlements. Children playing games that taught tactical thinking, adults working jobs that provided dual-use military skills, families living normal lives while maintaining the capability to become soldiers at a moment's notice. If someone were foolish enough to declare war on humanity, Li Hana said quietly, they would not be fighting an army. They would be fighting an entire civilization. 20 billion people who view the safety of human children as their highest priority. Commander Velthar swallowed hard. And your actual military? Your professional soldiers? Are currently occupied with more important matters than attending peace conferences, Li Hana replied. They are exploring new worlds, protecting civilian populations and ensuring that threats to galactic peace are eliminated before they can grow large enough to require these kinds of meetings. She walked toward the exit, then stopped one final time. The territorial dispute between the Vorthan Empire and the Keth Republic that brought us all here today involves 3-star systems. In the time we have been talking, humans have established new settlements in 12 systems and opened trade routes through 37 others. The mathematical implications were staggering. While other species fought over existing territory, humans were constantly expanding into new regions. Their growth rate meant that within a few years, human space would dwarf every other civilization in the galaxy. Perhaps, Lee Hanna suggested, you might consider focusing less on fighting each other and more on the productive activities that make civilization possible. As she walked toward the exit, her personal communicator chimed softly. She glanced at it and smiled. "Ah," she said to the room. "I have just received word that 3 new colony ships are launching from Earth next week. I should probably update our galactic presence estimates accordingly." The door closed behind her, leaving the delegates alone with the weight of what they had learned. The peace conference continued, but the dynamics had fundamentally shifted. The territorial dispute between the Vorthan Empire and Keth Republic suddenly seemed trivial compared to the revelation that humans had been single-handedly maintaining galactic security while everyone else argued about borders. Admiral Theiss looked around the room at the other delegates. "I think," she said slowly, "we need to reconsider our approach to interstellar relations." General Krixtal nodded grimly. "The humans are not just another species to negotiate with. They are the foundation that makes all our other negotiations possible." Commander Velthar, who had learned the hardest lesson of all, simply stared at the door where Lee Hanna had disappeared. "And they do it all with civilians," he murmured. "Imagine what their actual military could accomplish." Outside the conference hall, Lee Hanna walked calmly toward her shuttle.